What's going on, guys? Nick Dark here. This is going to be a market lesson video on 3 types of analysis. So if we could see right here, it's technical, fundamental, and sentiment. I'm going to walk you through each one, basically just breaking down the concepts and how you can use them to benefit your trading. So the one that we should most be familiar with is technical analysis. So technical trading, you can see the candlesticks here. That simply means how we've been showing through our YouTube, through our analyses that we post every week. In our community and so on. This is your technical analysis, marking up a chart, essentially using different tools to find sentiment, find trade opportunities, break down a chart so that it makes sense, support and resistance. Everything on the chart here is included in technical analysis. So there's tons of videos that we actually post showing you guys how to use technical analysis, how you can find trade setups, and you don't necessarily need to use every type of analysis to be a good trader. 80% of my trading is on technical. I'll use some fundamental, but again, I won't take trades based on fundamental. I'll mostly use technical. So this is how we'll do it. We'll mark it up. We'll go through it. If you guys want to learn our strategy, again, you can check out our YouTube videos and so on. But this is basically what I mostly use is technicals, right? So in this scenario, I've gone ahead and applied moving averages, labeled my support and resistance levels, key areas like this monthly, labeled certain areas, and I'm looking for what I want to see to then enter a trade. So this would be in this scenario a break of support, test is resistance, and then we want to see some candles confirming that this is going to drop and continue lower. So that's one form, technical analysis. You can also use, this is a TradingView tool. If you go to TradingView, type in any pair and then click on technicals. So like let's say we just typed in USD JPY. And the overview comes up, slide over to technicals, and it'll kind of just give you an overview of different indicators and what they're indicating essentially in the market on that particular pair. So right now we're on the 1-day view. You can change all the time frames here, and it'll change accordingly. So let's say you start. Let's just apply it from the concept of a top-down analysis. Right, we're on the monthly. What are these indicators saying for UJ on a monthly time frame? Everything is sell. Moving averages over here are strong sell. Summary in general is just a sell. Oscillators are a sell as well. And you can see these are moving as price action fluctuates. These will move. They'll give you different signals, and it'll even tell you pretty much 8 are neutral, 3 are in sell position, 0 in buy position. Again, 13 here, 13.91, 10.11, and you could scroll down and see which each of these the settings are for each. So Cat6 is 14.33. Over here, the EMA, exponential moving average, is set to 5 period on the monthly, and so on and so on. So pretty interesting. Oh, this also shows you key support. These are called pivot areas. So basically support 1, 2, 3, resistance 1, 2, 3, and so on. So pretty interesting. And again, you can scroll down through time frames. So let's just see. So strong sell on the weekly, pretty much across the board. Daily sell as well, 4-hour sell for the most part, except for moving averages, 1 hour strong buy, and so on and so on. So that's technical. Next is fundamental analysis. So there's a lot that comes into play here. Usually economic events drive this, certain news events, any major things that may affect a central bank, or even sometimes in some small cases a large company. In this recent times, we've seen the corona impact on the market. That is definitely fundamental. So it's kind of a 2-part process with fundamental. Is news will move the market, or news will give some sort of outlook on the market, or it'll impact it in such a way. But then the retail traders will then take that news, interpret it, and then run with it. So they'll price it into the market. So that's when you hear the term speculation. That's because the retail trader is buying or selling based on a certain news event, and it's usually short-lived. It's usually a very quick move, but this is definitely a good thing to be aware of, fundamental news. So the fundamentals in general, news being one of the main factors. So what you want to do is make yourself aware of the news. I'm not saying take a trade based on any particular news event, because again, there is associated risk with news. If something comes out, you think it's one thing, and then it's slightly changed, your entire bias is thrown off, right? So what you can do to make yourself aware of this and kind of be prepared for these certain news events is find an economic calendar. This one particularly is FX Street. So what you want to do is click the current week that you're looking at and just look at the certain news events. High impact news is obviously the most is obviously the highest impact on the market potentially, depending on the news. But you just want to be aware of what all this means. So you can see as news is coming out here, so all these grayed out ones have already been released. Mostly negative news, nothing too crazy. But the bigger events you want to be aware of, rate decisions, unemployment, CPI, stuff like that. So like these high impact ones again. So like let's say over here we see unemployment's coming out tomorrow in the morning. So maybe I don't want to be, and it's saying it's not supposed to be better. So that is more or less a positive outlook. So people are expecting, a positive outlook for GBP. Let's say it comes out negative, that then positive outlook now turns bearish in the, in a split second, and it gets priced in by speculation. And then let's say GBP USD, let's say decides to drop quickly, rapidly, and you were on the long side of that. So you would have lost some pips on that trade, some profit. So it's good to be aware of it. So we know that this is coming out. I want to stay away from GBP pairs for the, early tomorrow. And, kind of resume trading afterwards. See how the market reacted. Did it really shake the trend? Go to the higher time frames. Take a look at the, overall, the broader view. Did this news, make or break the trend? Or am I still very much with an overall, short bias or long bias, whatever you were prior? So it's very, very interesting. A lot of people definitely confuse the fundamentals with, like trade signals. They'll see that, oh, this is negative news. Or they cut rates, we're going to short, we're going to start selling now. And that's bad because then you're playing into emotion. I mean, I personally, based on my strategy, I don't trade news, but again, I'll make myself aware of it because it is important to know. Because like if you're in a trade and you're not looking at news at all and a news event hits, it could stop out your trade or it could completely screw you on a certain trade that you were in. So you just got to be aware and be very careful. Okay, so then finally, sentiment analysis. So this is basically... there's a couple ways to do this, and the way I apply it, it's sentiment analysis. So what I do, I'll use a bit of technicals, and like you can do an inside look at a certain broker here. So you can see where most of the orders are. So where most of the orders are, let's say 80% of people are long on Euro USD here. Or let's use this example. So this is 28% people are bullish, 72% people are bearish. So the sentiment on Euro USD is bearish. Now this isn't always right. That's not saying, oh, it's going to drop because 72% of people are short on it or think it's going to drop. It's just another tool to use in your trading. You know where most of the positions are. Again, the only thing with this, finding where all these orders are is that it's very specific to the broker. They can only give you what their client's sentiment is. You can't get the overall. You'd have to look at every broker and every position in the market, and it would be a pretty big hassle. But for IG, this broker, that shows you their client's sentiment. And in this scenario, 72% of people are short on Euro USD versus 28% bullish. So this is one way you can look at it. It's just another tool. Again, I don't necessarily use this as much because I'll show you how I'll find sentiment simply based on technicals. And it's just a different way of thinking when using technicals. And I'll show you in a second. So this is just, again, a nice tool. And it'll give you the overall, signal here too. So it's mixed here. This is bullish. This is a net short, net long. So this is bullish, this is bearish, and so on. So it's a pretty cool tool. Interesting to see. So like Litecoin, everyone's like 90% of people. It even shows some cryptos here, which is cool. Bitcoin, 83% of people are bullish. Ethereum, 86%, and so on and so on. So that's one way you can do it. You can look this up, look up sentiment, client sentiment. You'll find a whole bunch of these pretty much for different brokers. So let's move over to technicals, and I'll show you how to find sentiment. The way that we do it is I'll always look for sentiment on a higher time frame, usually the daily or higher, because you want to get a large amount of data, a few months, at least a quarter of the year's worth of data to understand where most of the movement is happening, where the market is heading over a long period of time, because you want these larger moves, because these larger moves are more significant. Obviously, a lot of data has been priced in, whether it be fundamental news over the long term, the state of a certain economy. It'll give you a pretty good idea of the sentiment and where the price action is going. So let's go ahead and take a look at AU here. On this monthly, we can see that it's bearish all the way since February 2018. So this is bearish. It's clearly bearish. This is the sentiment. The overall, most of the orders have driven price down. There's definitely more sellers than buyers. So that's how, this is easy to say that it's primarily bearish. And you can actually drop down time frames to see how accurate that is as you get closer and closer to current price action. So here we are on the weekly. Again, still very, very bearish. Very, very bearish. More bears and bulls by far, especially down here in this big spike. Again, this was fundamentally driven by Corona, right? And then it came back. But even on the daily, we're still primarily bearish, right? This is a little 4-hour trend over here. Don't worry about it. We're zooming out. Still very, very bearish. So that's the overall sentiment. The way that I look at it is I always like to use that broader view. Because again, I'm not trying to find the sentiment on a 1 hour. I'm not trying to find where, today are most of the people buying or selling today, and I'm gonna, make a impulse decision based on that. No, that's not really the proper way to trade. Especially if you're trend trading, that is more or less, sentiment trading on a higher time frame, which is the way I like to do it. I definitely found the most success doing it that way. Very patient. We're just waiting for these confirmations and looking for, a continuation of an overall established trend. So very bearish in here. We're looking for shorts. We caught a few last week, and that's just how we do it. So quick recap, guys: 3 different types of analysis: technical, fundamental, sentiment. Okay, so hopefully this helped you guys. Go ahead and message me if you have any questions at NickDarkFX, or hit me on Discord if you're in a community. You can find the links below. All right, thank you guys. I'll see you in the next one.